you just have to trust that, I mean, it doesn't matter what profession you're looking at. There is always bad apples, but most of the people in education are there for the right reasons. They have a heart for children and they want to do the right thing and they want to help kids grow and learn and mature and do all the things. And so I just trusted that everything was going to be okay. He has an issue. I get a phone call. I'm at work. Now, I am not a brain surgeon, but what if I was? Because I get a call from the resource teacher and she says, Derek is going to miss the bus. He got mad in my classroom and knocked over some desks and did this and that and the other, and you need to come pick him up.
I think the teachers who were the most successful with Derek were the ones who were the most willing to be creative.
As a parent of a child with a disability, sometimes you just got to trust your gut. And, there are times that you need to kind of, lay back and allow the teachers to do what they're doing. And then there's other times that you got to stand up and say, hey, wait a minute.
Welcome to Baker's Banter. Yeah, we got a lot to talk about for sure. Before we can get to dodges and all that jazz, I do have news.
What is your news?
Tell us.
Wizards of Waverly Place is coming out on Disney Channel and Disney Plus.
I did hear that they were doing a reboot.
Now, is it the same? Are they taping new episodes and it's rebooting, or are they just replaying the old episodes?
Oh, it's new.
Oh, it's very new, but different characters for sure.
But some of the same characters.
I thought I heard Justin was going to be on it.
Justin's going to be on it, and somebody else.
And we do have two
returning
Disney Channel characters. Number one will be Damon Harry, go by Justin Russo,
and
Selena Gomez as well, played by Alex Russo.
Well, the other way around, Alex Russo by Selena Gomez.
Yes. I don't think Selena Gomez is going to be a recurring person.
She's probably a guest star on occasion.
I think she did come in and do a little bit of filming with them. She will be a guest star. But David Henry is definitely in the new. I'm assuming it's some sort of like new storyline.
Yeah,
obviously,
maybe he has
older,
kids or
maybe
something.
Maybe he has a family.
Maybe he has kids who are wizards.
Yeah, who knows? But yeah, that is exciting.
There's those eyebrows.
Not sure about that.
I did want to ask just to confirm because last week on the podcast, which we actually recorded yesterday, but he told me that he kayaked all day by himself for 2 days. Is that true?
That is so true.
That is so freaking cool.
Isn't that amazing?
Yes.
It was so exciting. So
it was.
Basically what went down, I don't know what we had. We had
13 plus the baby, right?
Plus the baby. And
Shout out
Drew, basically the assumption was that he would be with Uncle Scott in the double kayak. We'd all have everybody else would have the kayaks that we had. We had one for everybody, and Jordan and the baby would be with your dad in the boat. Well, I think the reality of the situation is Drew didn't want to miss out on the first ever boat ride with Warren.
Yeah.
Which I get.
Yeah.
And he said, would it be a problem if I was in the boat? And I'm like, well, what are we going to do with your kayak? And I had been thinking that we should give Derek a shot at doing it. I mean, the river was kind of down. It wasn't, it was a little lower. It wasn't real fast.
Yeah.
Right. And so I talked to your dad and he's like, well, I don't care. You know it better than I do. I mean, I kayak it. He doesn't.
Yeah.
And so I asked Derek, was he comfortable? And he was up for it. And he, literally, Jenna, freaking did amazing.
Derek.
All right, Derek.
He did so well. I mean, he, I was Katie and I in the beginning were, one in front, one behind kind of thing. Follow her, and I'm behind him, hollering left, right, whatever. After about 20, 30 minutes, I mean, the one spot on the second day, I was in the boat in the morning, because then Drew and Jordan got to kayak first, and then Jordan went in the boat and I went back in a kayak.
So did you have the baby in the boat?
Vicky and I had the baby in the boat.
Okay.
And but the one spot that we used to always get flipped
and the
at.
baby's name is Warren.
The baby's The one spot we always get that's real narrow, that over to the right, where we've gotten flipped before, and people have gotten kayaks and canoes stuck under there and that kind of stuff. It's
Where
a
it
little
kinda
more
sucks you in
mild.
real
Yeah.
quick. Yeah.
It's a little more mild this year than it was last year.
Yeah,
Last year was pretty treacherous. On day 2, he went down that first. And it was he did so incredibly well. It was so exciting.
Derek, I'm so proud of you.
I'm proud of myself too, girl.
It was
I love
cool.
that.
It
That
was
is
cool.
so exciting. I'm glad I asked you about it.
Yeah.
Because he told me about it, and I was proud of him yesterday. But I needed a witness to tell me about it.
Yeah,
as
we've got
well.
all kinds of video. We did a vlog. Jack will be seeing that soon, hopefully.
We'll have to send it to Jack. I love it.
Make a folder.
Oh yeah. You remind me after this, and I will make a folder. You got to remind me when we're not on the pod. Okay. So I went to the soccer game this weekend.
Oh, fun.
Yeah.
I didn't know I thought you were coming back for a cards game.
Chris and I were in the box at the soccer game.
Oh,
It was lovely.
Awesome.
I know.
I've not
Well,
been to a soccer game.
So
Maybe one day you and I and Chris go do a soccer game, because I did not take that off my bucket list.
I haven't checked it off my bucket
to go to the
list
game
either.
this year, and it just didn't work out. But I'll try again next season. I feel like the season's almost over again at this point. But we went to the soccer game, and so remember when you're at the Yankees game, and I was just sitting there minding my own business, and all of a
you
sudden,
got hit by a French fry?
yeah.
Did you get hit by another French fry?
Water? I'm just sitting there minding my own business, and all of a sudden, like, not a ton, but a decent amount of water just came out of nowhere.
Better hope it was water.
It was water. It was not sticky at all. Chris smelled it. It did not smell. Well, because this is what happened. So it was actually kind of funny.
Soda.
It was kind of funny because I was a little hungover.
Or cheese.
I was a little hungover. I was not feeling my best. Okay. And I had been at the lake. So I got up early Sunday morning and drove home from the lake to make it to go to the soccer game with Chris. And we were going to the game in the box that his company has. And I said to him before we got there, I'm like, do you know who's going to be there? And he's like, I don't really know. And I was like, well, I hope it's a bunch of people that we don't really know, so we don't have to talk to anybody. Because
Jenna's turning into Chris.
I was hungover. I wasn't feeling very well. Okay. And I was like, I just don't really
Sound like
feel.
me at deliver.
Yeah.
Oh,
I just
you talk to everybody.
Yeah. I was like, I just didn't really feel like, socializing with, people I barely
I
know.
have to get drunk to make out with anybody.
Okay, that's a crazy thing to say.
I don't even know what he said.
I'm ignoring it.
Let's not repeat it.
No. So it was funny because Chris goes, well, what if the stalkers are there? Which is this couple that we really enjoy hanging out with. And he works with Dan, and then I just adore Dan's wife, Kelly. And he's like, well, what if the stalkers are there? And I'm like, well, if the stalkers are there, I'll talk to the stalkers. And we walk in, and what do you know? The stalkers are there.
When she first said that, I thought she was saying stalkers.
No, stalk.
And I'm like,
it is not spelled like stalkers. It's stalkers.
But
stocking
shelves.
Stocking shelves, the stock market. Yeah. But they didn't actually, I guess there was at least 4 people extra than there was actually seats. And I was not feeling my best, but Chris and I got there with 5 minutes before the game started, and all the seats were already taken. And our friends were sitting in the front row, so we kind of sat on the stairs next to them. And we sat there for a while, the whole first half. Chris and I sat on the stairs and just visited with them there. And then by the time the second half was about to start, I was not enjoying sitting on the stairs. And Dan was very nice, and he got up and he joined Chris on the stairs, and Kelly moved over, and I sat in the seat Kelly had been in. and not even 2 minutes go by, and all of a sudden this water just comes out of nowhere. It just spills all over me. And I like honestly barely reacted. Luckily we did switch because Kelly was wearing white denim shorts and I was wearing biker shorts. So just what, like, I knew I was going to dry. It was just kind of like, okay, whatever. I like wiped it off. I was like pretty positive it was water. I was just like, okay, I mean, it's hot. So it wasn't that bad. But yeah, two games in a row. And I'm just like randomly getting hit.
Yeah,
by
I wouldn't
things.
put this out there in the universe because you're just going to be a target for people at the cards game. Let's see if we can hit her with a peanut.
Our theory was because we were in a box and directly above us seemed like it was other boxes. And for whatever reason, when we looked down at the bottom of our box, there was just this teeny tiny little sliver of spot where, like, if you would have spilled something, it would go down between there and could fall below. And that's what we think probably happened. Like somebody probably dumped over what I'm saying is a water.
Okay. You've showered since then.
I definitely has. But so before we are going to talk about Down syndrome today, but before we get to that, I need to address something with you that Derek was telling me earlier. So this weekend Derek and I are going to be hanging out, and he and I and Chris are going out to dinner. And so we were talking about that, and then we started talking about the wedding. And I told Derek that under no circumstances is he to make my wedding be anything about wrestling. And what did you try to tell me?
Let's not go there.
Oh, no. We're going there. He told me that between now and when I get married, he is going to be winning the NXT North American Championship belt. And he's going to walk down the aisle with it around him at my wedding.
Well, I'll just say this. If he wins the NXT belt, then I think he should be able to wear it.
Yeah.
Told you.
Agreed.
Yeah, she's only saying that because
Right?
she knows you're not going to have it between now and
All
then.
right. Well,
She's tricking
right
you.
now there's 4 voters in the room. You don't get a vote because you don't have a mic. And I think we're 3 for 4 here, right? Jenna, you're outvoted.
They're only saying this because they know you're not going to have a belt, Derek.
Too bad.
You got to win it, though.
I will win it.
Okay.
All right.
I will win
There
it
you go.
because I will beat Opal Family and then make sure that will happen.
Okay.
I heard NXT is coming to St. Louis, so this is my time to shine. So we need to meet Ava. We have to make that match happen, and I will beat Opal Family, and you better scream your fucking lungs out, girl!
Well, I would definitely be screaming my lugs out. Watch your language. Okay.
Oh, my. Okay.
Moving on.
Hallelujah.
But because you are going out of town this weekend, I told Derek, I was like, I think we're going to make some cooking videos, and we're going to try out some new content. We're going to make some cooking videos. And Derek finally has agreed that he will do what?
Be on my boy healthy era.
Oh.
Nice. Healthy boy era.
Healthy boy era. And I think the only reason he's agreed to this is because he is trying to go after Obafemi for the NXT North American Championship. He knows that he needs to like slim down, bulk up kind of thing, eat healthy.
There you go. And you know what?
Get ripped.
Guess what we're starting tomorrow?
What?
Your weightlifting training again.
All right.
We're going to see Evan tomorrow.
Oh, I love that. You'll have to make some content for me.
Yeah. We're
Okay,
starting tomorrow.
Okay, that's great. This is
Off-season training. We're committed.
healthy boy era.
We're committed.
Okay, I love that. All right, I do want to kind of make this the next chapter of the Down syndrome conversation. I feel like the last time we talked about it, well, we did talk to Dad a lot and kind of got his perspective, but I feel like we've talked a lot about finding out Derek had Down syndrome, Derek as a toddler, early childhood, therapy, all of that kind of stuff. So now I think the next kind of phase of this conversation, we need to talk about Derek starting kindergarten and going into school and that transition and those elementary school years. I know there's lots of Derek's stories we could
Oh,
share from this era of his life. But where I want to start is kind of, this is a little bit of a 3-parter, but I want to know how, and I realize this was a long time ago, so like you can kind of just share what you can remember, but how did you and Dad prepare yourselves? How did you prepare Derek? And then how did you prepare with the school?
Wow. So, wow. God, that was a long time ago. It's 21 years ago we started school.
Maybe prepare with the school. Maybe
Yeah,
that's the
I think
easiest
that's
one to
probably
start with.
easier. I mean, you know, Derek started in daycare when he was, I think I finally went back to work in August. So I think he was about 4 months old when he started going to daycare. So he was used to being in a school setting.
Daily.
They're right, every day, because I worked, you know, every day. And of course, Dad worked every day. So that wasn't really all that difficult. And then before and after school, well, before he went into school, he went to kindercare. And then we had it set up for before and after care that he would be at kindercare. So that was all pretty typical. I don't think there was a whole lot of preparation that really had to happen for him. You know, for us, I think and I've told people this before, one of the easiest parts of the transition to get him into school was the fact that you were already there.
Yeah.
Right. So you were going into 4th grade when he was going into kindergarten. So we had been a part of the McKelvey community for 4 years. I knew the principal. I knew the counselors. I knew some of the teachers. You know, I knew some of the staff. And so I had a very high comfort level with the school that he was going into. I will tell you that when we were preparing this transition into McKelvey, there was a counselor who called us and tried to get us to look at a different school for Derek. There was another school in the district that had a self-contained special education classroom, and she thought it was a good idea for us to send Derek there. And I said, absolutely not. Derek will go to school with his sisters. I'm not even going to go look at that. So we need to figure out how we're going to make this work. And I think one thing that parents need to understand is that they can tell the school district no, right? I mean, I'm not an attorney, but the law basically is that they need to put your child with a disability in the least restrictive setting that they are able to function in, right?
Yeah.
Well, the least restrictive setting is his homeschool, right? So I pushed back and I said, no, that's not going to work for me. He's going to go to school with his sister and eventually his other sister when, you know, Katie got that old enough to be there. So I think it's important. And, you know, I always approach things, for the most part, I'm not perfect. I always try to approach things from a very practical, calm demeanor. I wasn't rude. I just said, no, like, we're not doing that. Okay. We're going to go, he's going to McKelvey. How are we going to make this work?
Do you think you got advice for that to be the case, or was that just like you just knew in your heart that was what was best for him, so that's what you said?
I think it was a combination of I felt like it was best, and as a working mom with now 3 kids, 2 in school, it is so much to juggle, right? To be a working mom. But to be a working mom with kids in 2 different schools with 2 different schedules for, you know, Halloween parties, and like, how am I going to get from school A to school B to see you both on Halloween? How am I going to make it to all the track and field events and all the concerts, and things are going to overlap, and I can't be involved with 2 PTOs. So there was also some selfish, I don't want another school in my life.
Sure.
Right? I want to be a part of the McKelvey community, and that means you got to take my kid with Down syndrome. Now, how are we going to make this work? And the principal at the time, his name was Dr. Knight. I thought he set the tone for Derek's first several years in the school. And he, I think, came from the same perspective. He's like, okay, this kid's going to be in my school. How are we going to make this work? And I think he was involved in a lot of the meetings prior to kindergarten starting, and, kind of pretty much put it out there and said, okay, this kid's coming. We're going to make this work. Right. So I'm very grateful to him and the leadership that he showed at that time. There were some, Derek is very social, doesn't know a stranger. And, one of the things
that's the reason they keep making friends every week.
That's right. Everywhere you go, you make friends.
And that's just that. Not only being nice to the strangers, especially wrestlers too. For example, Candy Carter, Tyler Jan, when I was staging, part of it with the music.
Yep.
And Katie Carter and Katat Chance pointed at me and danced with me.
Yep.
It was freaking cool.
Well, I don't know if you remember this, but when you were little, there was a staircase that you had to walk down to go to kindergarten in the mornings. And you were in full day kindergarten. In our district at the time, you had to pay extra to have your kids in full day kindergarten. But so we paid the extra to keep to have you and Derek in kindergarten for the full day. By the time Katie was in school, I'm pretty sure it was free. But anyway, you would walk in the door. You had a paraprofessional, Miss Spector. She was an angel on earth and still is. You would walk in the door. You would sit down at the top of the stairs, and every single kid that walked by would tell you good morning. And it was just hugs and high fives and good mornings. And he would just sit there, and it was like he was the mayor of McKelvey, and he was holding court.
Mayor of McKelvey.
And, Dr. Knight said, this is awesome and all the things that he's, being accepted in the school. But, it takes him 30 minutes to get from the bus to the kindergarten classroom.
Take what to the no one. That's all that matters.
There's just not that much time. So, there was just different little things that kind of happened along the way. And then we would call a meeting with the team and say, okay, how are we going to tackle this one? Like we got this great plan, and then he throws a wrench in. I'm going to, stand at the top of the stairs and say good morning to every single kid coming in the building. Okay, what are we going to do with this? Right. And so I think it was a very collaborative effort initially. And because I had such a comfort level with the school and the administration and the teachers, we were just very, very fortunate that it went as well as it did.
Do you think you guys had to prepare in any way?
I had to prepare. And all moms prepare for all the things. I mean, I cried for all day long your first day of kindergarten, and I remember that he was 3 years old the first time he got put on a real school bus, and they harnessed him in. I mean, he was a baby still because he was going to the preschool program from kindergarten to the preschool. I cried all day when they put him on a bus. I mean, you just have to trust that, it doesn't matter what profession you're looking at. There is always bad apples, but most of the people in education are there for the right reasons. They have a heart for children, and they want to do the right thing, and they want to help kids grow and learn and mature and do all the things. And so I just trusted that everything was going to be okay. But yeah, everything we ever did it's Katie's going to move out sometime soon. I'll probably cry for a day, and she's 23 years old. So
not to out you, but I'm going to out you.
Oh, here we go.
Well,
So no. So she says she cried all day my first day of kindergarten. You know what she did my first day of second grade?
Yeah. I forgot to get school supplies. There was a lot going on in my life. By then your dad was traveling. I mean, that was when he was traveling like 3 days, like every other week, like he was gone the week. And I had, so you would have been what? You would have been 6, 7, 8. So he was 4. Katie was a baby.
Katie's like 3 months old.
Yeah. And we get up and it's the first day of second grade. I'm like, we got no school supplies.
She's like, go get your backpack. And I like come back. I'm like, I'm not sure where my backpack is. I don't know if I have a backpack.
That is true.
And then we
went to Office Max and I paid like 3 times what I should have had to for all the school supplies.
I did not ride the bus that morning because
No.
we had to go buy school supplies.
That is true.
And
Yeah.
she had to drive me to school.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. to
Maybe
out
I was
you.
lucky and Dad was actually home that week.
You definitely
know.
had like less than 6 month old at home.
Oh, sure. Katie was a baby.
because it would have been 2001.
Yeah, because she was born
April of that
April
year.
of your first grade year.
Yeah, and then
Yeah,
this
so
was
come on.
August. Kind of hilarious though. Sorry to out you.
That's okay.
I think it was funny. So I also know that Derek did actually when he started kindergarten, he was not potty trained.
He
yet.
was not potty trained, and that was okay. He
started late.
He started at age 6. He could have went at 5, but he would have been one of the younger kids in the class. But we held him back and waited till he was 6. He was more ready at 6 than he was at 5. He was still not potty trained, but and part of that was because, again, I was a working mom. I went to work every single day. It's really hard to potty train a kid who needs extra help making that all work when you can't be consistent every single day.
Yeah.
Because you're at work. So that back to Miss Spector, like I credit her. By the end of kindergarten, he was potty trained because he was with her every day. Thank you. Thank you, Liz. You're the best. But yeah, he was not potty trained, but we worked it in. Fortunately, the classroom that he was in had a bathroom in the classroom. The kindergarten classroom he had. Mrs. Bowling was his teacher in kindergarten. She was lovely. And Miss Spector made it happen. Yeah. And then kindergarten, actually did he have Miss Bowling? Yeah, he had Mrs. Bowling.
Yeah, because Miss Hughes moved up with me in
Mrs.
second
Hughes
grade.
was in second grade. And then he had Miss Pyzik in first grade. She was absolutely, still to this day, I would say one of the best teachers he ever had. She was so creative. She actually said, I want that kid in my class. I think I can help him. And she created these books, and I still have some of them. He had a book of A's, and she put manipulatives on there, so they like beans or something, so that he could feel the letter. And she wrote these books, and she drew like the D book was in the shape of a dog. I mean, she was unreal, Mrs. Pyzik. She was absolutely one of the best teachers ever. And when we went into second grade, of course, I wanted to have Mrs. Hughes. You had her for kindergarten and second grade, and I love her, and she's amazing. And I know right after he started in second grade, I was up there within, the first 2 weeks of school, and I went in to say hi or do, I don't know, get his stuff, do whatever. Anyway, I was in Mrs. Hughes' room, and she was like, "Oh, Val, I'm a little nervous about what's going on. Like, I don't know what to do. I'm not sure what to do with Derek. I don't know what to do." I'm like, "Well, let's call a meeting. Let's get everybody together and let's talk about it. Let's talk about what your concerns are." And so within 2 or 3 days, we had a quick meeting. It didn't have to be forever. And of course, Dad and I was there, and the administration was there. Miss Feynman was his resource teacher from kindergarten to 4th grade. She was amazing. We all got together. His para was there, Miss Spector, what's going on? And the bottom line is we made assumptions. Mrs. Hughes and Miss Pyzik were the best of friends. And of course, Mrs. Hughes knew me, right?
Yeah, she knew our family.
She knew the family. We made the assumptions that she knew things she didn't know, right? We didn't have like a pre-second grade meeting, which we probably should have, to talk about all of these things. And that's, I think, where her apprehension came, because she was looking at Derek going, how am I going to get him academically at the end of this year where I'm going to get all these other kids?
And she wasn't. She wasn't.
She
going
was,
to.
and she wasn't gonna.
The answer was, you're not.
You're
going
not gonna.
to.
You're not gonna, and that's okay, because it's, at least from our perspective, and I'm not saying we did everything right, but from our perspective, we wanted Derek in the general education classroom as much as possible, even if he was not at the same academic level, because, and we've talked about this before, Derek in the real world is in, with all the kids that went through gen ed, right? So you got to be able to deal with people who maybe have a little bit higher IQ than you do. The purpose of Derek being in that setting is to learn how to follow rules, learn how to do what is expected of him, learn how to socialize with everybody in the classroom and follow the line when it goes to lunch and do all these things. It's not about him being able to name all the dinosaurs that everybody else can name when he gets out of second grade.
Right.
And after we had that conversation, she was like, okay, I can do this. Right.
Yeah.
And again, my bad, if you will, for not having that discussion before school started with her.
Sure.
Really, the whole team should have had that conversation, but
she just knew our family so well. So you just kind of
we just made some assumptions that were inaccurate. So, but at the end of the year, fast forward to the end of the year, I'm there. It's the last week of school, last week of second grade. And I go up to school and Mrs. Hughes said to me, Val, I didn't get it in the beginning. I didn't understand why we were doing it the way we were doing it. Why is Derek in my classroom? He's not going to be able to keep up with these kids. That's how I felt at the beginning of the year. Now I'm telling you, don't let anybody steer you differently. You're doing the right thing. You keep doing what you're doing, because not only did Derek grow leaps and bounds in my class this year, but the other kids in my classroom grew leaps and bounds because Derek was their peer.
Yeah.
So keep doing what you're doing. And I will take that with me forever. Thank you, Mrs. Hughes.
Teary-eyed just listening to you say that. Yeah, I need to reach out to her. We need to get her on here. She's the only teacher.
She had all three of them.
Jack's like, yes, you do. She's the only teacher who had all three of us. And I actually had her twice, because I had her in kindergarten, and by the time I was moving to second grade, she had also moved to second grade. So I had her a second time. But yeah, that's amazing. I'm just to know that it went full circle like that. And that is, I think also too, for just other parents, I actually had this discussion recently, and this is something Chris and I have talked about, but I want my children to go to public school. And that is because my experience in public school was so diverse. And I think that is one of the most important things from my childhood and how I grew up and who I was surrounded by, because we went to such a diverse school, and I value that so much now. I didn't know it in the moment, how important it was and how much it was really impacting who I was going to be and how I was going to see the world. But I know that now, looking back. And in my experience, in my opinion, I don't see that same kind of diversity from an abilities standpoint in a private school setting.
Not only from an ability standpoint, but if we're being honest, from a
cultural
and race standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, I just think the diversity lacks. And I want my children to be raised around people with disabilities.
People who are different than them.
I want them to be raised around people who are different than them, people who look different from them, people who eat different things at home, people who have different religions, people all of those things. I want them to see differences in their community, because I think that's so important. And I think that is how we were raised. And I think, I didn't have somebody in my grade with Down syndrome. I wish I would have, but I did actually. So this is when I was in fourth grade, there was a kid who had autism at the time. I mean, they don't use this diagnosis anymore, but at the time we were told he had Asperger's, which we now classify under the autism spectrum. But he was having a bad day one day in fourth grade, and he came into the classroom, and he was in our class most of the day, but he would leave the class sometimes to go to the resource room and do, some more hands-on work with other teachers, that sort of thing. But this one day he was coming back into the classroom and he was having a bad day. And I was the first desk in the classroom. And by default, I got the consequences of his bad day. And it was one of those desks where, you know, there's the desk and then the chairs attached to it. And he came into the classroom, and next thing you know, my whole desk, including me, got flipped up and out of it. And it was a little startling, maybe a slight bit traumatizing. But at the same time, because I am Derek's sister, I think I had the ability to be much more understanding that it wasn't about me, and he was just having a bad day, and I wasn't like petrified of him or anything. Like he was not in control of his emotions in that moment, and I was the recipient of that. And I think his mom called you, and she was like so upset, and you were kind of like, Jenna's fine.
She's okay.
Yeah. But yeah, I just think being surrounded by differing abilities is so important for kids. And I think that Derek's peers absolutely did benefit from growing up with him in their classroom so heavily and so regularly. And I think that is really cool. Speaking of that, that's one thing I wanted to ask you about. Like, I saw this story recently about this little girl with Down syndrome who was in high school, and she got invited to a birthday party. And it was I think it was her first time, maybe only her second time ever being invited to a birthday party. And she was just beyond excited, and so like couldn't even contain it. And it was just like so overwhelming to her. And the mom was just sharing like, thank you to this kid and this family for going out of your way to make sure, you know, my daughter was included. And you have no idea how much this meant to her, and sharing that story. Is that like, did Derek get invited to a lot of things? Did Derek participate?
He got invited to, in elementary school, you know, he got invited to several birthday parties. You know, there was a couple of kids. I mean, I think he got invited to all the birthday parties that happened? No, probably not. But he got invited to several birthday parties. And when we invited kids to his birthday party, they all showed up.
Yeah.
You know. Because we used to do the, you know, tumble drum or whatever. What was that place called?
Chuck E. Cheese, tumble drum, Sky Zone.
Yeah, I don't remember.
I remember tumble drum.
No, that's not it.
It'll
come back to me.
Make a vlog for Sky Zone.
Derek just wants to go to Sky Zone. Okay,
that's okay. I'm sure we can
see about that. We could see about that.
But yeah, I mean, he got invited to stuff.
The GoPro though.
Okay.
Yeah. He had, and then, you know, when he got into high school, I mean, he had, you know, Megan and Maddie were freaking rock star friends, and they would go to the dances with him and all the things. But
he had more dates than anybody else, because he had like 6 people being like, that's my date.
Yeah. He took all the girls to homecoming.
All the single girls were like, Derek's my date. And Derek's like, yep, they're all my dates.
Yeah. Look at them eyebrows.
Okay.
Yeah. It's true. We got pictures.
We know for sure.
All right. Speaking of that, do you know, was it Megan or Maddie? Was it Megan?
I don't know. I don't know what you're going to say.
One of them just got engaged.
Megan. Do you know Megan got engaged?
I did not know Megan.
Congratulations to Megan.
Yeah, you'll have to text her.
Brother, soon I will.
Okay. All right.
In 3rd grade, you know, he had a behavior plan, if you will, you know, all through school. I mean, I remember for a while he had these little slips he'd bring home that said, I did very good today. And, you know, there was different variations of that. Well, when he got into 3rd grade, he had Kelly McCarthy. She was also awesome. I actually loved all his teachers in elementary school, but, and she did a red light, yellow light, green light thing, right? So if you had a good day, you got a green. If you had a day, you got a yellow. And if you had a really bad day, you got a red light. And that was her behavior plan for her whole class. It wasn't just Derek. Well, Derek took to that really well. He understood that. He understood green is good, yellow is and red is not so good. And, you know, we followed through at home. If he brought home, I mean, I asked every day when I got home, how'd you do today? Show me your light. If he got a green light, he got hugs and kisses and all the things. And if he had a yellow light, we talked about it. If he had a red light, there were consequences, right? So it worked so well in 3rd grade. We did it again through 4th grade.
Yeah.
And then we got into 5th grade, and unfortunately, his resource teacher, who had been with him since kindergarten, retired on us. I was like, can't you give me one more year?
Right.
But so we had a new resource teacher, and she decided that system was too difficult and that he couldn't understand, I don't know, the yellow light, whatever. Well, early in the year, and I'm jumping way ahead because I know another thing we wanted to talk about was summer school and the bus. But anyway, early in the year, and again, we didn't have a pre-meeting. Probably should have had a pre-meeting that year. He has an issue. I get a phone call. I'm at work. Now, I am not a brain surgeon, but what if I was? Because I get a call from the resource teacher, and she says, Derek is going to miss the bus. He got mad in my classroom and knocked over some desks and did this and that and the other, and you need to come pick him up. Again, what if I was in the middle of brain surgery?
Or just any, like, there's a lot of occupations where you can
I'm just
drop
saying
what you're doing and leave.
And I'm like, okay, back up. Did he miss the bus? And she said, no, he has not yet. I said, then you go put him on the bus, and then you can call me back and we can talk about the rest. Do not call me at work and tell me I need to drop. Like, come on, I'm at work, right? I can't just drop my shit and go to school because something happened at school. Let's be adults. So anyway, she had made this decision that the yellow light was too difficult
Too vague,
to understand. Maybe. I don't know. But anyway, one day, Derek had a day that should have been a yellow day. And for 2 previous years, would have been a yellow day. She gave him a red light. He knew it didn't deserve a red light. He got really angry and created a red light. Trust me.
He's like, oh, you want to see a red light day?
You want to see a red light day? Let me show you a red light day. And he knocked over some desks, and he had never done anything even remotely close to that in his 6 years in this building.
Right.
Nothing. I mean, never any kind of behavior.
He said,
like
you want to see a red light? I'll show you a red light.
Yeah.
That's what I'm hearing.
So anyway, she called me back. She got him on the bus, and I said, put a note in your door and tell the janitor to please leave your room as it is, messed up. Don't fix it. And Derek and I will be in there in the morning, and we will have him fix your room. But you can't call me at work and tell me, drop what you're doing and come pick your son up. I'm going to make him miss the bus. Oh, I was pissed. Uh-huh. And we did. We called a meeting, and it all came out. The whole day was described, and we all, the whole thing was about he should have had a yellow. She was giving him a red. And the problem was when he got home, there was a big difference between a yellow and a red when he got home. And he didn't want the red light consequences when he was a yellow boy. Anyway.
So he made himself a red boy.
So he made a red light that day. But anyway, the point being, I think sometimes I have had, and you know what? In her defense, she was brand new. She was his resource teacher. She had then moved to the middle school after that. Derek had him again. Derek had her again in 7th grade. She was fabulous. It was her first year. And I'm sure there was a lot going on in her world.
And she learned from it as well.
But anyway, I think there are some times where even our special educators don't give our kids enough credit. I think that's what I'm trying to say. She should not have assumed that he's done it for 2 school years. Why all of a sudden is this too hard? Right? This doesn't make sense, because there was another situation about the bus. And I think, that was actually going from
school.
That was going from 5th grade into 6th grade,
Yeah.
right? They had this really cool program back then during the summer called So This Is Middle School. And almost all the kids took it coming out of 6th grade. They go up to the middle school, they do summer school, and they learn about the building.
Miss Holt was my teacher for
She was amazing too.
School.
Anyway, so Derek is now going into 6th grade. He's not 3, right? And the way that our school system or our summer school worked is you would catch the bus at your elementary school. So mom and dad would drive you to elementary school. You would take the bus to the middle school. The bus would take you back to your elementary school where mom and dad would pick you back up. So this particular day, actually, Mimi Warren was picking him up. Oh, poor Mimi. And the paraprofessional and the special school district teacher that were working with Derek that afternoon were in disagreement as to where Derek was supposed to go back to. Like, what elementary school are we supposed to send him to? Does he go to McKelvey, which is what the paperwork said, which was right because mom filled it in? Or the special education teacher is like, I know this kid went to Craig. I know he went to Craig. He's got to go to Craig. He's got to go to Craig. So they put him on the bus to go to Craig. The kid is what, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. He's 12 years old. Could you look him in the eye and say, where'd you go to elementary school? I mean, he went there for 6 years. Come on, people. They didn't even ask him. They did not ask him. I was so mad just because they didn't ask him. Like, ask him. He knows where he went to school for 6 years.
Kelvin.
Yeah, he
Exactly.
still knows.
Kelvin, come on.
And so they stuck him on the bus to Craig. My mom's at McKelvey. He doesn't show up. I'm getting phone calls at work. We're calling all the buses and where is this kid? Blah, blah, blah. All because the teacher didn't just say, Derek, where'd you go to elementary school?
Right.
So that's frustrating as a parent. Like, you're the special education teacher. You should not assume this child can't answer this question.
Right.
You know,
He might not have pronounced it perfectly, but you would have known.
You would have known.
And
say
not Craig.
Greg
Say McKelvey.
McKelvey.
They sound different.
Very.
But anyway, yeah. So that was
Greg. I don't into Craig. That's not my school. McKelvey what?
yeah.
So.
You did go to Craig.
So were they, Derek? Were they having this conversation in front of you? Do you remember?
I have no clue whatsoever.
Because I'm
what
kind
is
of
going
surprised
on.
if they were having this conversation in front of him. I'm kind of surprised he wouldn't just say, "I went to McKelvey."
yeah. Well,
But maybe they weren't having.
they
it
may
in
not
front
have
of
been
you.
having it right in front of him. But anyway, he got lost on the buses. But
Yeah. Okay, this backtracks a little bit because I think this happened more around like 3rd grade. But let's tell that speech therapy story while we're on the topic of teachers.
I think we've already shared that here.
Do it
we?
again. Do it again.
So we were waiting for our our parent teacher conference, and the speech therapist came up. Have you heard this story?
I don't think so.
And so somebody else was with the teacher. We were waiting for our slot, our time. And the speech therapist comes up and says, well, you must be Derek's parents. And we're like, yeah, we are. Nice to meet you. You are. And I don't remember her name, whatever. And we chatted for a minute, and she looks at us. She goes, I'm really surprised. And we're like, yeah, what are you surprised by? She goes, well, I kind of thought you were French. I'm like,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. I'm like, really? Why would you think we're French? She said, well, you have a daughter named Jenna and a dog named Ginger. And I'm like, no, we have a daughter named Jenna and a dog named Ginger. And that's why Derek sees a speech therapist. So, yeah.
yeah.
But that was also the year in 3rd grade that you had the whole class convinced you were going to a Boston hotel for spring break. Do you remember that?
The whole class. It was like the whole building.
Yeah. Everybody, I'm walking through the building. They're like, have fun in Boston. Have fun in Boston. Have fun in Boston. I'm like, we're not going anywhere. And then I got into Miss McCarthy's class, and she's like, well, Derek's so excited about your trip. I'm like, she goes, well, he keeps saying you're going to a Boston hotel. and I laughed.
You know why he thought he was going to a Boston hotel?
What was that?
Why were you going to a Boston hotel, Derek?
Who lived in a Boston hotel?
Zach and Cody.
Zach and Cody.
We all know that was a lie anyway. So.
He is a good storyteller. He got taken out of a swim meet in high school because he told the coaches that he was going to sing the national anthem at the Mizzou football game that weekend.
You want to know why he
That's
wanted to get
awful.
taken out of the swim meet? Because it was early on a Saturday morning.
So do you know what we did? We went to the
there.
swim
Yeah.
meet, and he watched the whole thing. He kept saying, it's hot. I'm like, if you were down there in your swimsuit, it wouldn't be so hot. You're a good storyteller. You always have been.
We never share.
Oh, we know for sure. Okay, so let's talk about the IEP meetings. What are those experiences like? Do they get better? Do they always suck?
I guess they did get better when he got a little older. We were a little bit more experienced and, that kind of thing. There was one particular area manager for SSD that didn't really get Derek at all. She told me, this was with the whole chair flipping thing. Well, the curriculum in 5th grade is much harder than 4th grade. And I looked at her, I'm like, do you know my kid at all? Like, his curriculum has not changed that much. You don't even know him. So don't talk. You're not a part of the solution. And then I talked to the teacher. Yeah, he knows what a yellow light is. But it got better for me anyway. She was there's gonna be people that are just don't speak the same language that you do.
Yeah.
And so his late elementary, Miss Feynman was gone. She was my gatekeeper. She was amazing, right? It was just that one year, that 5th grade year was really, really tough. And then we got into middle
It's real tough for me too.
Yeah. We got into middle school and high school and those were all a lot better situation. It was just that 5th grade year that was really, really hard for us from an IEP perspective. But I did really like at the end of elementary school, we did, and I don't remember what they called it, but it was more of a let's know because here Derek is moving, right? He's got this 6 years in elementary school and he's going to this new middle school for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. These people, they saw him coming too, because of course you were there, right? And we brought him to all the things, but we didn't know them. He didn't know them, but we did a really cool meeting where we talked about all of the wonderful things about Derek and all of the things that made him so special and all of the things that made him tick. And do you remember that? You were there.
Yeah, I remember going to it. Maybe
I think we did that into high school too.
Well, I definitely remember the one going into high school.
Well, we did it going into middle school.
And I remember, I thought maybe I went to a couple when he was in middle school. It was nice that I was already experienced there because it's like at that point, I mean, obviously I was a kid, but like at the same time, I knew the school and I knew Derek. So like I knew how our family functioned and what worked well for him. And I knew the school and how it functioned. And so I was kind of like that puzzle piece that I was like, I know both of these entities. And what if we do this for him? And that's not going to work for him because of this. And like, maybe we can change this because Derek's not going to like doing this, like that sort of thing. And so that's kind of like the role I played in those IEP meetings later in once I got a little bit older and had more insight to share.
Well, and I think the other thing is, not all teachers are built alike. And that's just reality. And some of them are going to adapt better to having Derek in their class than others. Now looking more at like middle and high school, and your opinion was very valuable to your dad and I. There were some teachers that you were like, oh my God, like Derek would love him. Mr. Hazelton comes to mind. Like, yeah. Incredible
Derek
teacher.
Was on silver too, wasn't he? 6 silver.
Hazelton in high school.
Well,
for
I
speech.
know, but I loved my 6 silver teachers.
Yeah, he was on silver, and Molly Klein was his.
And I said Derek needs to be on silver. Because
those teachers. Yeah, and they were incredible. And so it was just nice that, in some ways our roadway was paved by you.
Yeah.
And that was, I think it was just huge. And I've said that, and I said that to Chelsea when we were speaking to her and Matt the other day. We were just I felt very fortunate that you had kind of walked down the road ahead of time, because it's like the whole vision was better. Like we just had more knowledge and more vision on what things should look like.
Yeah. Well, one thing I'm kind of like gathering from this conversation, and you can certainly correct me if you think otherwise, but I think the teachers who were the most successful with Derek were the ones who were the most willing to be creative.
Absolutely.
And people who like, that one teacher, it was her first year in the resource room. She had, learned what she learned in school, and she wanted to stick to what she thought was best because that's what she knew. And instead of taking what she could learn about the kid and then get creative, she was like, this is what I already know. This is what I want to bring in. And that, especially with somebody like Derek and with a lot of kids with disabilities, you got to get creative and figure out how you can take what needs to happen in your classroom and take this kid and figure out how they can come together in a creative way that allows both things to function and prosper.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Rigidity was not good.
Yeah, flexibility is key.
Flexibility was good. You had a question.
Do you think I do good in high school and middle school better of McKelvey?
It was just different, Derek. I think that McKelvey gave you, and that's a great question, by the way.
Yeah, I agree with that.
McKelvey gave you a great base from which to grow. You were very well cared for by the administration there. You were very well cared for by the teachers that were there, and you had a really nice core group of students that you went to school with for 6 years. But you were your circle, if you will, the space in which you thrived was smaller there, right? Occasionally you would be pulled out for, speech or physical therapy or occupational therapy, or we even did some music therapy. But and all kids are kind of in a tighter, smaller setting in elementary school because you went with your class to gym class. You went with your whole class to music. You went with your whole class to lunch, right? So you're kind of more herded. You're in a smaller bubble. Whereas when you got into middle school and especially high school, you were much more mature, much more independent. You were able to navigate the building on your own. I mean, that first year at high school, you had somebody that kind of helped you find your classrooms, because it's a big building. But after the first few weeks, they're like, he doesn't need us. Like, we don't need to walk him to class. He's fine. And so you were flexing your independence muscles, and you knew that the bell rings and you got to leave your resource room and you got to get to gym before that second bell rang. And you did it. You knew how long it was going to take and you made it happen. And you started to be more in control of where you were within the proximity of the school.
More responsible,
more independent. And so you just continued to grow and flourish into more of an adult before you got out of high school than you were. And that's that. And I think all kids do that, but you definitely, by the time you were in high school, you knew the school, you knew where you were supposed to be.
You wanted to be independent.
And you wanted to be independent, and you made it happen.
But I do want to talk, before we wrap up the conversation about elementary school, I have two last things that I wanted to talk about. And maybe this is kind of like the play, but I wanted to talk about when he was first starting elementary school. He did do a couple of youth sports, and he did Boy Scouts.
Yeah. So we got to be involved with our local CYC organization. He had an incredible soccer coach, John Lindell. I still run into him sometimes in the grocery store, and he always asks me how Derek's doing. He's such a nice man. And
can we have dinner with him?
I'm sure your dad could figure out how to get a hold of him.
Cool.
But we just put him on the soccer team, just like we put you on the soccer team. And, he ran out there and ran around. I think you played probably kindergarten, first and second grade. And then it just got to the point where those boys were so fast and Derek was so not. But Derek was big. And some of those kids were little, and I'm sitting here watching this happen. In the first couple of years, Derek would go out, during a game, he would go into the field and he'd run around a little bit, chase the ball a little bit, and then he'd just come sit on my lap, peace out, I'm done. And then in second grade, I'll never forget this. Like there was a kid, and I think he was on our team. He didn't get hurt, and neither did Derek. But Derek was not very mobile. I mean, he could run. He's just not very fast. And this kid is dribbling the ball, and he is running flat out, not paying attention. And man, they just. Right. And Derek just stood there and took it. Right. And he bounced off. Right. And I'm like, okay, this has gotten.
I was the Incredible Hulk.
Yeah. That's exactly what it was like. Cause he was way bigger than this other little boy. And anyway, I thought these kids are getting too fast. Somebody's maybe going to get hurt. So we decided that wasn't right for us. And then eventually, a few years later got involved with Special Olympics, which was perfect for Derek. And then Boy Scouts was a lot of fun. I don't know how long they did that. It seems like they did it at least from kindergarten to third or fourth grade.
I was thinking third grade, yeah.
Yeah. Dad was involved, and they would go. I know Derek loved it when they did the Pinewood Derby. They would race the cars every year, and Dad and Derek would make their car. I know somewhere we've got those cars around the house, but yeah, they were very inclusive, and Dad would go with him, and
some of those boys are the ones who fast forward to middle school and high school. Those are the ones who you didn't mess with Derek in front of them. Like they were very protective of Derek.
I know one of them, Jordan, he was in his Boy Scout troop. And again, fast forwarding to high school, they were on the swim team together senior year. And he decides they all shave their heads. This is what they would do at the beginning of the swim season. They just shave their heads. I don't know why, whatever, do what you want to do. But and some of them would just get it kind of high and tight, but Derek wanted to be bald.
Oh, God.
And they're doing each other's, and Jordan's looking at me like, oh, are you okay with this? He wanted to look like Coach Prosser. Well, Coach Prosser was bald. I'm like, it'll grow. And he shaved him bald. Do you remember that?
Yeah, that was a very long time ago. I never get my head shaved before.
Or to see if we can find one of those pictures. You were not
a picture. I have a picture of it like halfway done, and I remember you sending it to me, and like nobody told me this was happening, and I was in college, and I just like get this photo, and I'm like, what is happening? Yeah, it's like no. But you did it. You were part of the team.
I'm part of it.
Okay. Yeah. And the last thing I wanted to talk about was, I know, and this kind of goes along with your question, Derek, about, were you better in middle school and high school versus elementary school? And I don't know that better is the right word as much as it's just you learned more and there was more things that you were able to be responsible of and able to be independent in. But I know when he was younger in elementary school.
Say something real quick before you continue.
Okay.
Just let you know, sometimes Derek got bigger is definitely one of the great man, and sometimes they get great peers, and someday he will be a starter one day, and now here he is today, and I'm proud he is the one to become a champion, to become who you really is. I'm talk about the man behind Dowser's Gym. The man is phenomenal. The man is not the future you have.
Cutting a promo.
I think this young man of Derek Baker is the star. He is the bomb. He is a champ. And let's not forget and take this ability more grateful. Like more grateful I have right now, because I just deserve to get respected around here, because I knew this young man, this little kid, to be a child, to a young man. This man will be a champion, and he will to this day.
Okay.
And he's humble.
I feel as though I should have finished my question and you should have done that last, because I feel like it's kind of weird going back to the conversation right now, because that was like quite the ending. But last thing.
You're welcome for that.
Okay. Last thing. I know that when he was younger, change was really difficult for him. Mm-hmm. And I think that like red light, green light thing is a good example of that. But I know even like at the end of the school year, transitioning into the summer, and then again transitioning out of the summer. Like that was something that he really, really struggled with. And to this day, some changes can be difficult for him, and we do have to like ease into things, with which Jack knows, with our whole, you know, wrestling top 10 conversation. But kind of talk about that a little bit, how change was really hard for him and how it, you know, how he grew.
Super duper hard.
It was really hard when he was little. I mean, he was very regimented on and if you change things up,
like he even had a hard time on like a Labor Day weekend. Like if it was like a 4-day week instead of a 5-day week, or like half day,
and like a snow day. And then you don't have to go to school today, but you got to go tomorrow. Like, it was, I've often said, and I probably shouldn't say this out loud. Somebody's going to steal my.
Don't say your book title.
Okay. Well, I've got a great book title for him. But anyway, I used to sing, I can't even tell you.
I think the book title would be The New NXT North American Champion.
Totally.
That's what it was. That was
weird.
That was it. How did you know that?
Kindergarten.
But it was hard. And I think even now, like, there's, for some kids, there's a 5-minute warning. Hey, we're leaving in 5 minutes. Well, for Derek, I start that warning like 30 minutes ahead of time. And it's just, we still do that. Like, hey, remember, we're going to do this and this and this. Not right this second, but get in your mind, right? And we're always prepping him. It's just like when we're at the airport and we're talking to him about the dog, right? Yeah. Like, this is how this is going to look.
It could be different.
This is what, and you just, we read from him what he needs from us. And it's not that we're trying to baby him. It's just that we're trying to help him be the most successful he can be. And one of the ways, one of the ways that we can help him be the most successful is to make sure that he's prepared for whatever is coming next.
Yeah.
And so that's what we try to do. It doesn't always work. Sometimes we try to prepare him and he still goes off a tangent, but overall that's, we try to keep the schedule to the schedule, and we do certain things on certain days. And if we're going to veer from that, we try to make sure he's got a lot of warning. I do want to mention Kelly Miller, which was your 5th grade teacher. She watched us on Baker Banter. Sometimes her kids comment on videos that their mom had Derek in 5th grade. She was amazing. She told me a story one time, and it was something like, she's her husband.
NXT North American Champion.
She's so cute. She's this little blonde thing with this long blonde hair, and she probably looks, 15 years younger than she is when I knew her back when he was in 5th grade. And Derek met her husband, and I don't know why he thought it was her dad, and he said something about his adorable daughter or something like that. I'd love to hear that story again from Kelly. She got such a kick out of that. But we had Mrs. Norfleet in 4th grade. I think we were just so lucky.
Yeah. Like,
he had the best teachers.
Well, to this day, McKelvey's one of the top rated elementary schools.
Yeah. And I think that, as a parent,
more better.
As a parent of a child with a disability, sometimes you just got to trust your gut. And, there are times that you need to kind of, lay back and allow the teachers to do what they're doing. And then there's other times that you got to stand up and say, hey, wait a minute, this isn't working for me, or that's not going to work for me, or I think my kid needs more of XYZ or whatever. And there were a few times that, that I had to stand up and say, okay, this isn't going to fly. But for the most part, everybody was definitely, in special school district and Parkway, looking out for Derek and his best interest and trying to make him everything that he could be. So,
and look,
we were very lucky.
Future NXT North American champion.
There you go, right there.
Your title, me.
And prime spokesperson right there.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, well, this was lovely. I'm glad we got to talk about this. You're so freaking hilarious, even when you were 5.
Oh, my God, always.
He's always been so funny. But that is all we have time for today. Find us on all the platforms at Baker Banter. Follow Derek on Snapchat. Right. Find us on Cameo.
I am going to do it. NXT cars later this evening. So get ready for some wrestling.
Yeah.
You know, and check out the merch. There was a lot of comments when Derek had the Derek, Jenna, Katie Bobcat shirt.
Yeah.
That they're like, oh my God, I love the shirt. It's on the merch line.
It
so
is on
check
the merch
it out.
line. Speaking of
Check
merch
it out.
line, I will, by the time this episode comes out, there will be some new merch. It is, you know, this presidential election is going to be quite the show, maybe a little volatile. And we've got some merch that is good for everybody. So you should check it out.
Can I say what I think it might say?
What do you think it might say?
Derek for president.
It might say Derek Baker 2024.
I'm buying one of them.
Yeah.
I mean, a good one, actually.
Yeah. I also have some new spooky merch on my Etsy shop. I've got some cute stuff.
WWE CEO.
Oh, well, we can't put WWE on a shirt. We don't own that.
Yeah.
That's not ours. But Derek Baker 2024 we can put on a shirt, and we did. And it's out there. So
I
go
love
take
that.
a look. And
If I draw your name for Christmas, that's what you're getting.
and find my Etsy store. I do have some new spooky stuff out there that I'm really excited about. That's really cute. I worked on it this morning. And that is all we have time for today. We will talk to you guys next time. Like, share.
Subscribe.
Peace.
Peace.